Now, this 4th of July weekend, we are taking a look at one of the great leaders of our country. A new book titled Lincoln at Peoria, The Turning Point, sheds light on Lincoln's life before he became our nation's 16th president and how he led the charge to end slavery.
And joining us here in the studio this morning is the book's author, Lehrman. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And you know what's great is that when you're out in the green room, I come up to you because I'm such a Lincoln fan, and I start berating you with questions. Do you mind that?
I think we all did, didn't we?
No, everybody's interested in questions and answers about Lincoln. He's one of the most written about men in the world, certainly Americans.
And your book does an incredible job of placing this speech at Peoria squarely back in the center of focus. And you know, we grew up learning about the second inaugural address. We grew up learning about the Gettysburg Address. In fact, when you go to the Lincoln Memorial, it's etched in stone, those two speeches. Why is this Peoria speech, why has it been largely forgotten?
The Peoria speech was a turning point for Mr. Lincoln.
And why was that?
He was a practicing lawyer in Springfield, a small town then. It was the capital of Illinois. And Stephen Douglas passed the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which would cause the spread of slavery in the Kansas-Nebraska territory. Lincoln came out of private practice to oppose slavery, to oppose the spread of slavery, and to put slavery in the course of ultimate extinction. And as a private citizen, he gives this extraordinary 3-hour and 10-minute speech at Peoria, following a similar 3-hour exercise by Senator Stephen Douglas in the afternoon. That is to say, that day was a 7-hour exercise in speech-making attended by throngs of thousands in front of the Peoria courthouse.
Wow, and wasn't there supposed to be, a break, and he said, let's take a break, and then I'll come back and give my 3-hour speech?
That's one of his great lines, yes. Douglas speaks at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, finishes at 5. Don't forget, Senator Stephen Douglas was the most famous Democrat in America at the time. Lincoln stands up and says, okay, everybody, let's go to dinner. You've already listened for 3 hours, but I want you to come back for the pleasure of hearing Senator Douglas skin me, because he gets a chance to speak after me and reply to me. And Lincoln appears at 7 o'clock that evening and speaks until 10 minutes after 10 on the Declaration of Independence, the equality principle, and that America and its founding was meant to put slavery in the course of ultimate extinction.
You spent about 20 years of your life working on this book. On the side. I mean, as a historian, that's an incredible amount of body of work for you to be doing in 20 years of your life. Was there one nugget of information as you're going through papers and scholarly papers that just blew you away, something you just didn't know about Lincoln that just shocked you?
That actually occurred as a very young man when I was teaching history. My first 2 jobs were teaching history. That was when I read in the collected works of Abraham Lincoln, Roy Bassler's edition. Was published in 1953. I read the Peoria speech for the first time.
And it just blew you away.
And as I mentioned to you earlier, it just suffused my consciousness. I never forgot it. And this book really puts on the printed page the impact that Peoria speech had on me. As you say, Clayton, it was not a very well-known speech while he was president, and it has been one of the least well-known great speeches. And it was his first great speech.
Kind of a turning point for his career as well, not only for our country.
And yes, both.
When I was reading your book, I read an excerpt I had to ask you about. You were talking about Senator Douglas, and you said in your book that he got in a scuffle with the law partner of Lincoln and almost bit his finger in half.
Well, that's a disputed story, which I do mention. But it's certain that he got into a fight with John Todd Stewart, who was a big, strong man. Remember, Stephen Douglas was only 5 feet 4 inches. Abraham Lincoln was almost 6 feet 4. John Todd Stewart was a very strong former Kentuckian, and he got into a wrestling match with him, and there's no question but that Douglas bit his thumb. Whether he bit it halfway off is the question.
Yeah. So you mentioned his height. Did he have Marfan syndrome? In biology, that was the debate. I know there's skeptics.
There have been some who have said that. I think the medical evidence is that Lincoln did not have Marfan's. He did have a touch of smallpox when he was in the White House, but he was extremely physically strong, not only in his mental tenacity about the Declaration of Independence and its importance for America, but he was also enormously strong in every aspect of his physical stamina.
His legacy lives on.
The book is Lincoln at Peoria. It's a fascinating read. Lehrman, good job on this book, and I think it places back in the center of debate a speech that was long forgotten. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.